Good evening, everyone. Ashmere here with Nuts and Bolts Sports, and we are going to talk about the Western Conference playoff picture with a couple guys from the Nuts and Bolts team. I'm sure everybody is excited for the play-in game tonight. I know I am. Obviously, I'm repping. I'm wearing my Clay jersey. Maybe it's good luck. So let me introduce the guys. First off, we've got. Oh, everybody's here. We've got Zane, Keith, and Stephen. Welcome, guys. How's it going?
Going great.
I think the Clay jersey only works if it's Game 6, though.
I know. It kind of feels like it, right? Like, I don't want to lose yet.
They sure as heck need Game 6 Clay right now.
I know. During the last game, I was just imagining, like, how Clay must have felt during the whole thing. Like, he's probably like, well, first of all, I don't think we'd be in this situation if Clay was here. I don't know if anybody else agrees, but I think that for sure. But anyways, I would like you guys to just kind of intro yourself a little bit about who you are, and then we can roll into what you're expecting for the Western Conference. So Zane, why don't you kick it off?
Well, first, hi guys, my name is Zane. I'm a representative of Dallas, Texas, and a Dallas Mavericks fan. I'm a student at the University of North Texas, and I'm a marketing major, and can't wait to talk about some playoff basketball. Let's go.
Okay, I'm sure we all know who Keith is, but I'm just going to let Keith tell you in case you're brand new to Nuts and Bolts Sports.
I was going to say, I think everyone knows who I am by now, and I was probably tired of seeing me on here. But Keith Richards, if you watch No Huddle Necessary, you've seen me a million times. I'm out of Denver, so definitely a Nuggets fan. Missing Jamal Murray, but still should be a good playoffs.
And finally, we've got Stephen. Welcome. I think you're new to the Nuts and Bolts team, so please introduce yourself.
I've been with Nuts and Bolts for I think this makes 3 weeks now. I represent Chicago, Illinois. I went to Illinois State University, graduated in 2018 with a major in sports journalism. And I'm just looking to finally have that break into the industry. It's been very tough going, but put in all this time to get there, so it's roll the punches.
Yeah, we know the hustle for sure, so don't worry. We're all on this drive together. So my first question for everybody is, what did you think of the play-in games? I'm very interested. I know we had a little taste of it during last year in the bubble, and so I'm interested to see what you guys thought of these couple games. I mean, aside from the Warrior-Laker game, which I know everybody was really hyped about, what were your thoughts about, the whole thing? Did you think it was successful? Would you want it to repeat? Keith, what are you thinking?
It's interesting because I think, especially in the bubble and a lot this season, I feel that they're necessary. Just because of the way the condensed NBA schedule was, how it was all broken up last season because when COVID hit, I think it's just fair to have teams like the Lakers and the Warriors who suffered serious injuries before the season even started or through the season or with so many COVID restrictions because of contact tracing. You're not having a regular season. But when the season becomes more regular, when there are not people missing 3 or 4 games at a time because of contact tracing, I wonder if they're going to keep on with it because really at that point, you are who you are by the end of the season. But I don't think you can say that now just because of how weird it has been because of COVID the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I have my own thoughts, but I'll let Zane take it away first. What did you think? Did you like it? You want to see it continue? We know the numbers are high, so obviously I think the NBA is going to keep it, but I'm just interested in what you thought.
Yeah, I actually really liked the play-in. It was really interesting, especially with like 2 great teams like the Lakers and the Warriors playing in that very first game. Just in future reference, if it's not a COVID situation, I don't see a point in having a play-in tournament because a lot of teams work hard to like get that 7th and 8th spot, and then like this year, instead of kind of letting like your foot off the gas and allowing your reserves to play more. You have to play to the very end just to make sure you secure certain seeds. So just in the future, if the COVID situation has died down, then I don't see the reason for a play-in. But this year definitely was interesting, and hopefully Steph can drop 50 tonight to end it off with a bang.
I'm really glad that you said that because I'm hoping for 50 tonight. I tweeted that he was going to drop 50 against LeBron, and he had like 9 points in the first half or something. So obviously I was shooting for the stars. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think the play-in game was cool. I think it gives teams that aren't too hyped or, they're kind of granted to have not a very good season because they're in that transition time like the Hornets. I feel like it just gives like the fans like one last hurrah to root for things. I know that game wasn't the greatest, but it's better than watching like a 10th seed place and then you have 7 games of watching that, right? Or 4 games or whatever the case may be. So that's just my own idea. I think it was dope. I would love to see it again. Do you guys want to talk about tonight's game? We could talk about it. I'm not going to say I'm rooting for the Warriors, of course, all day. I think it'll be very tough. I know the last matchup these two had were, without Dylan Brooks getting fouled out, would it have looked the same? I don't know. But curious, Keith, what did you think and how do you think tonight's going to go? Warriors.
I'm expecting a blowout, but I don't know from who. You had the Warriors who were up pretty big on the Lakers in the first half and just did not put them away, and they ended up losing the game. Then you have the Grizzlies who had a decent lead on the Spurs as well, but they ended up winning the game. I think because of those circumstances, one of those teams will have a letdown. Based on the experience, you would think that team would be the Grizzlies just because Steph Curry is Steph Curry. I don't have an issue with how he plays in the first rounds of the playoffs. Rounds 1 and 2, conference finals, he's always been amazing. I don't expect that to be any different, but just when you look at how Curry looked when LeBron hit that deep three to get the go-ahead bucket, I just wonder how much he has left in the tank at this point. I don't think he's a negative guy, but you can only handle so much negativity before it just starts to wear on you. So I think if he has another performance where he just has 9 points in the first half, then the Warriors could be in trouble. It's hard to say, but I think it should be a good game up until a point, but someone's going to run out of gas. It's just a matter of what team is going to do that first.
Yeah, you sound like a true Warrior hater. Okay, Zane, what about you?
I'll just keep it real.
I'll actually have to disagree with Keith. I think the Warriors are going to play really good this year, or like not this year, but like this game tonight. I think Steph had an off game against the Lakers, even though he did pretty well. He dropped 37. But I think tonight is going to see one of those legendary Steph Curry games where he just goes bananas. And even though the Grizzlies are a really good team, especially defensively with an underrated defender with Dylan Brooks and then Valanciunas holding down the paint. It's going to be a very gritty game, especially in Memphis, but I see the Warriors pulling it out, and Steph will have a 50 ball tonight. I guarantee that.
Okay, I love it. I love only positive energy here. So
I'm not saying I think the Warriors are going to lose. I think it's going to be a close game in the first half, but because of what both of the teams have had to go through to get to this point in the season, I think one of those teams in the second half is going to lose it. I just don't know who that is.
No, I completely agree. Well, let's roll into the teams that have actually made it. So Lakers and Suns, after that crazy matchup we saw on Wednesday night, Lakers have moved forward. And I'm interested. Were you guys anticipating something like this? And how do you think this first round's going to go? I mean, Chris Paul is hungry. So, Zane, what is it looking like for you? Are you a Laker fan?
Yes, but I'm also a LeBron fan. So
yeah,
which is very hard to believe because there's so many LeBron haters out there. But I love LeBron, and he's an amazing talent. And yeah, so I'm rooting for my Lakers, and I think they can pull it out in 6 games. I think it's going to be a very interesting series, but I just don't see Ayton stopping Anthony Davis or any of the Phoenix Suns wings stopping LeBron, even on a hurt ankle. And then with Frank Vogel and Jason Kidd and Phil Handy on the sideline making amazing defensive calls every possession and just changing looks at, I think it's going to be a tough series for Devin Booker. I mean, I think he's going to play well, but it's going to be a tough series just with all the defense thrown at him, especially with AD protecting the rim. So it's going to be a fun series, very interesting, but I got the Lakers in 6.
Okay, I like that. Keith, what about you? What is exciting you about this game? How do you think things are going to look? Who are you rooting for? I know who you're rooting for, but
I mean, I'm a LeBron James fan, so I want LeBron James to win. But we talked about it on Twitter after the game. I think that teams have 2 rounds to eliminate the Lakers. If they make it past the second round, I don't think any team is going to be able to beat them. I say that because a lot of people looked at the Lakers as a bad team this season, which doesn't make any sense to me. Any team without their top 2 players for a large majority of the season are not going to be as good as if they have their top 2 players. So me personally, I'm thrilled because the way it was looking, the Lakers were going to face the Nuggets in the first round, and I absolutely did not want that. So it could not have ended up better for me as a Nuggets fan. But the issue that people facing the Lakers in the first round, even though they're a 7 seed and the Suns are a 2 seed, is the Lakers added so many new pieces throughout the season that the lineup that they started the game with in the play-in game against the Warriors, I think was only the 3rd time that starting lineup had played together all season. So the deeper they get into the playoffs, the more comfortable they're going to get with each other, the harder it's going to be to beat them. So I also think that the Lakers are going to win. I picked 6 games as well, just because from a pure talent standpoint, they have one of the most talented rosters in the league. But it takes more than talent to win. It takes familiarity and chemistry. And they're slowly building that, and you have to take advantage of that point if you're going to beat them. I just don't think the Suns are experienced enough to take advantage of that right now. If it was a Suns team that had been playing together, been in the playoffs 4 or 5 years, I think I might pick the Suns to win in this first round, but they're not. And even though LeBron is closer to 40 than he is 30, he's still one of the top 5 players in the league. He does not lose in the first round, and I don't expect that to happen this year.
Facts.
yeah, you made very good points there. Chemistry is a huge thing. Like, I think we talked about it on all of our NFL podcasts. Like, the word chemistry should just be tattooed on sports teams, because without that, you're just making mistakes. Like, the Warriors have a kind of chemistry and they had 14 turnovers, right? Like, who does that? Yeah, no, I like that six game prediction. That sounds right. Let's roll into the next one. If it's Warriors or Memphis, we're not sure yet. Going against the Jazz. So let's just predict it's the Dubs and Jazz. What does that look like to you? How many games? I think we're going to run out of energy on the Warriors team very early if we make it to round 1, just like Keith said. So I'm like 5 games maybe. That's not doubting the Dubs. I just think it's what the Jazz has to offer, right? So what do you think, Zane?
Yeah, I'm actually I think the Warriors are going to win tonight and become the 8th seed, but I think the Jazz will beat the Warriors in 5 at max 6 games, because I just think the Jazz move the ball way too well. Like, they're predicated on assisting the ball. They have 3 superstars that can shoot the ball. Not superstars, but stars, with Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Bogdanovich, even Jordan Clarkson as a 6th man. Like, they just have a very deep team. They play amazing defense, especially with Gobert holding down the middle. And I just don't see the Warriors. If they had Clay, that's a whole different story. But yeah, just with Steph alone, I just don't see him beating that Jazz team by himself.
You know what? We'll just keep the Clay. We'll have like a Clay return show, and we'll talk about how we think next season's going to look, because I think everyone's going to be disappointed on the West, but we'll save that. All right, Keith, what about you?
So yeah, I think 5 games sounds about right. This series will be the most glaring, obvious time that people see why the Warriors miss Klay Thompson. Because right now and throughout the whole season, the Jazz have been doing to other teams what the Warriors did for 4, 5, 6 years, and they're just shooting lights out from three. And where they really are going to miss Klay is protecting against that three. Kent Bazemore isn't terrible. Andrew Wiggins has actually been pretty surprising on defense, but they're not Klay Thompson on the wing on defense. Klay Thompson is arguably the best wing defender in the NBA. Because of that, I think Steph will get him 1 game, but because their wing defense is not what it used to be, especially with Klay Thompson gone, they're just not going to be able to protect against that three well enough to make it a super competitive series. Not to say that the Warriors are going to get blown out every game, but the Jazz shoot the three so well, and their perimeter defense is not what it used to be, that is really going to hurt them in this series.
Yeah, I completely agree. We all know Steph can't shoot every shot. So without having that additional shooter, even somebody who can shoot half as much as Klay would be helpful. But without that, I agree. Definitely Jazz are on fire, and they've gotten more rest. Let's all remember, all these teams have rested for a good number of days to come back on Sunday. So with rest comes a strong game 1, in my opinion. And the Dubs will only have 29 hours to rest or something. So they might be exhausted.
Draymond scored more than 0 points.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Clippers, Mavericks. I'm kind of most excited for this one just because I didn't think the Clippers would be in this position. But, the Mavericks, apologize. So I want to hear, who do you guys predict? Number of games, same thing, and why? Zane?
So I'm actually going to go with my Mavericks. It really made me upset that the Clippers tanked to get that 4th spot to play the Mavs. And I'm thinking it would be an easy go-around, but I have faith in my Mavericks. I think Luka is going to go to another level this year. Last year being his first playoffs and averaging 30-point, almost triple-double for the whole series against an amazing defensive team. I can see the Mavs winning. I got my Mavs in 7. Porzingis is the X factor for this series, and as well as Dorian Finney-Smith. If you know, you know. I think he's going to be a huge impact, especially on Kawhi, if he can play that solid defense. And who knows? We'll see either playoff P or pandemic P this playoff. So I got the Mavs in 7.
Hey, do you think that's a reach or what?
I have it going 7. I have it going 7 as well, but I have the Clippers.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because I don't think that the Clippers are so much better than the Mavericks. There's one player on the Mavericks that prevents them from reaching their true potential, and that's Kristaps Porzingis. He can't stay healthy. I said that when he was traded from the Knicks, and everyone thought it was such a bad trade that the Knicks gave up a potential superstar player. Well, it doesn't matter how much potential he has if he's not on the court, and he's just not on the court enough. Like, I don't want him to get injured throughout the series, but as a betting man, I can't help but think at some point in the series he's going to get injured, because that's just what he's done throughout his whole career. If Kristaps is healthy throughout the whole series, I still think it goes 7. I would give the edge to the Mavericks because the Clippers just have no answer for Luka when he plays the Clippers. But he can't do it all himself, especially when he's having to be guarded against Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And they've added Rajon Rondo, who we know from last season his playoff defense is outstanding. He just won't be able to do it if Kristaps cannot play all 7 games. Maybe he will. I just don't have faith that he will, based on just his career so far.
Yeah, I have to kind of agree. I think the Clippers are going to be a very tough outing. But I have faith in my Mavs. I think it's our revenge year from last year, and I can really see it happening. It's going to be a tough outing, but I got my Mavs in 7.
Yeah, I think this is one of the, well, along with the next one, we're going to talk about Keith's team, of course. I think this one is one of the more difficult matchups to talk about because so much could happen. And I think it will lead to 7 games. Like they're going to go head to head every time. So that one's going to be the most exciting. And I do want to see Luka do well. I don't want to see the Clippers win. I'm like such a hater, but I feel like basketball's full of haters. So that's the point, right? So for the last matchup, I'm gonna hit it to Keith first. How are you feeling taking on Damian, Portland? How do you think your team's gonna do? Tell me.
Even without Jamal Murray, I still feel really good facing the Blazers. Well, I think this is a 3rd time around versus the last couple times they faced them. For one, Aaron Gordon is a much better defender than when they were starting Paul Millsap in those other 2 series. He kind of fell off a little from when he first joined the team, but I expect him to be, I don't know if I would say infinitely better, but a lot better than he was the last 10 or so games of the season. And the second reason of that is Michael Porter Jr. He's not going to be the most improved player in the NBA. That's Julius Randle, without question. But he is a finalist for most improved player in the league for a reason. He really stepped his game up this season, and really not just in terms of his scoring. He was a lot better on the offensive boards. He was a lot better on defensive boards. He still has improvements to make on defense, but he made great strides, I thought, throughout the season on defense. I mean, you can't think of who's going to be guarding him. I would imagine Carmelo gets that assignment often, and I'll take that advantage with Michael Porter Jr. over Carmelo at age 40 or whatever he is at this point any day of the week. I think the last 2 series they've had have gone 7 games. I still think the Blazers are not going to be an easy out, but I don't think it's going to go 7 games either. I think the Nuggets will take them in 6 because they will still miss Jamal Murray.
Nuggets.
Yeah, I like your takes, Keith. Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. is going to step this year. He actually reminds me a lot of Kevin Durant, which is insane to even think, because he just has the length and the shooting ability and the handle to be a scorer like Kevin Durant. So he's definitely the X factor for this series, but I'm actually going to have to go with the Blazers in 7 games. I just don't think Damian Lillard is going to go out in the first round again this year. He lost in the first round last year to the Lakers, even as an 8th seed. So I think this year, being a 6th seed, I think he's going to will his team, especially having CJ back without a broken back and having Nurkic back in the center. I think they're going to be really well in this series, but it's going to be tough to stop Jokic. I see Dame time taking this series in 7 games.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Sorry, Keith,
No,
but I
it'll be 6.
just think the Portland Blazers they're hungry. They want to make it to that next round. I want to see Dame make it to the next round. Like that, I feel like that guy has already shown his loyalty. He's shown he's like one of the best players we've ever seen, and all you want is for Dame to get closer to the championship. I know round 2 will be way different. The matchups will be harder, but I do think that once Dame time hits, like Zane just said, it's like kind of a wrap. It's like when Curry heats up, right? You just feel like, oh, shit, we got a triple team Dame, and then there's CJ, and
I really like Dame too. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. But my kid wanted brownies for breakfast this morning, and she didn't get brownies, so they can want to get past the Nuggets all they want. But and the one player that rarely gets talked about on this Nuggets team, especially if you don't watch Nuggets games because they're on late, is Falco. His defense, I think, is also going to be an X factor on Dame. You're not going to shut Dame down. It's not happening. But I think he's going to make it really tough on Dame to be able to explode like he has in the past against the Nuggets in the playoffs.
One thing I'm going to say, the last time we saw Carmelo with braids in the playoffs was when he was in Denver and he made it to the Western Conference Finals. And Melo got the braids back, so I see playoff Melo coming back.
He hopes so.
No, it's a good point. Okay, look, sounds like we kind of agreed on everything except this game and the Clippers-Mavs matchup. I think those are the two most difficult teams to choose between, and will lead to 7 or 6, and that's just exhausting. And then round 2 is going to happen, and whoever we picked earlier is going to be rested again. Like I said earlier, that rest really matters, especially in this stretch. So yeah, thank you guys for joining. We lost Steven. He had some technical issues, which I'm sure we're all used to in this new at-home era of life. So be sure to subscribe to Nuts and Bolts on all fronts. You guys have any closing thoughts you want to say? I'm sure we'll have a round 2 show. So
Joe says Blazers in 6, but I just ignore him because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Ooh, and Monty has something to say too. I feel that, Monty. Steph has to average way too much.
I think the Jazz are slept on. I think they're going to be a dark horse. Next
time we should bring in audience crowd. We'll bring in the audience, even though Monty is with Nuts and Bolts, but we'll bring him in next time. I'm excited for tonight's game. Hope you're only rooting for the Warriors. If you're not, don't tweet me. Don't come for me. I literally can't stand that. So thanks for tuning in.
I'll stay off Twitter tonight then.
Yeah, I'm going to turn my phone on. Do not disturb till the last 20 seconds of the game or something. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and enjoy your weekend full of NBA. I almost said football because obviously you guys know me from the football podcast. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Subscribe to Nuts and Bolts, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks, Zane and Keith, for joining.
Peace.
Absolutely. Peace.